Have you ever been on a date with someone in a relationship? Let me tell you a story about someone who unknowingly was speaking to somebody who lied about being in a relationship. Let's call this person Jane. Jane has been on a dating app and says in her profile that she's looking for a long term relationship. Jane matches with someone, let's call him John, and they start talking on the app, and then they eventually exchange numbers and start texting. They're both engaged in the texting back and forth. They set up a date. John is very engaged. Everything is great. Come to the day of the date, Jane messages John earlier in the day and says, "Hey, just want to confirm that we are still on for tonight." Jane gets no response, just silence. So she's thinking, well, I'm not going to get ready if I haven't confirmed the date because I guess it's not going to happen. A little bit before the date, Jane gets a message from John saying, "Hey, I'm so sorry. I was dealing with a medical emergency," and sends sort of a screenshot showing that he has an emergency. Jane is skeptical about this because John typically responds really quickly. However, when the screenshot was sent to Jane, she sees it's an angle where she is like, "Wait, do I know this person?" She sends it to a friend of hers. Do you know what the person confirmed? The person confirmed that John is the husband of someone that they know. A husband with a wife and a 10-month-old child, if you can believe it or not. So this whole time, John has been lying about his relationship status. He's telling Jane, "I want a long term relationship. I really want to see you." Meanwhile, he's in the house or out of the house, wherever he is, with his wife and child. It's absolutely ridiculous. So Jane then goes to Instagram, whatever it is, and finds the wife's page. Y'all, all over the wife's page is this guy, John. The woman has their wedding photos, she has their baby bump photos, everything. So Jane doesn't know what to do. Jane's friend is actually the one who says, "You know what? I'm going to tell our mutual friend and just say, hey, someone that we know saw your husband on a dating app." And then the wife reaches out to Jane, not angry, nothing at all, and just says, "Hey, can you send me the profile? Can you send me the messages that you guys were exchanging? Thank you so much for bringing this up to me." And that's the end of the story. The woman was not angry at Jane. Obviously, Jane did nothing wrong. I think it's great that the wife was calm about the situation, but yeah, that was a crazy story. And it's just such a big story of deception, which is our title of today, the Dallas deception. You know why? Because I have a very juicy story for you guys that happened in Dallas. But this whole thing was absolutely ridiculous, right? Because I'm sure we've all been on dating apps where someone says, let's say you're a woman and you see a guy's profile. A guy might say, "Hey, I'm 6 foot." You meet them in person, turns out they're really 5'9". Or for men, maybe you see a woman, she looks a certain way, and then you see her in person and maybe she doesn't look exactly like the pictures. But hiding a whole wife and child is nuts to me. It's absolutely nuts. And I will say that I have also been deceived in life. And these situations honestly certainly affected me negatively at the time. But I got clarity and came out on the other side. It made me more formidable and honestly way stricter about the people and relationships that I'm willing to have and maintain. So that is the story of the week. Welcome back to another episode of Lush Life No Labels. I'm your host, Fatu. Before I move on, make sure to click that subscribe button so that you get notifications of all my new episodes, and send this to one person that you think may like the episode. If you like this episode, be sure to leave me a comment and like it as well. All right, folks, let's dive back in. I want to tell you another story about deception, okay? But the moral of this story is that somebody was living in a fantasy land, okay? I got this story off of TikTok I'm going to use the words and the people's names because the woman is the one actually who put the story out there. Okay? So this woman, she's from Dallas. Her name is Onyeka. She makes a TikTok and provides details about her now ex-husband. Okay? So the first thing she says is describe him as a 6'3", blonde haired, blue eyed white man who looks like a Calvin Klein model. So she meets Martin on vacation with one of her friends in Croatia. They hit it off, they start talking. He tells her that he is an Olympian. He has 2 or 3 Olympic medals, but unfortunately, he doesn't have the actual medals because he has given them away to charity. Convenient. He also tells her, wait for it, that he is a prince from Denmark. Okay, he's an Olympic prince. Homegirl does no internet searching. I'm sorry. I don't care if you gave away your Olympic medals. That your name, your team photo, what sport you played, that's all going to be on the official Olympics website in 2026 somewhere online. And this is where his deception towards her started. They start dating long distance, they start traveling together. They travel, listen, they were doing around the world in 180 days. Every single month, these people were on vacation. So they met in Croatia. They go to Colombia. They go all over the place. One of the places, actually, one of the first places they go to is Monaco. I've been to Monaco. Fabulous little country, obviously for the rich, very bougie, very rich. Okay. They go to Monaco and he says, hey, I'm here to take you on a shopping spree. Feel free to buy anything that you want. You know what she does? She buys some $100 sunglasses. She told us in her story, Onyeka, that she didn't want Martin to think that she was a gold digger. So that's why the only thing that she bought in Monaco were some sunglasses. And she was basically, I guess in her mind, was trying to pass a test that he was giving to her by making it seem like she's not materialistic. And in my mind, at the moment where she declined that, he saw, oh, okay, she's not really going to care whether or not I get her anything. So fast forward to they're now getting serious. He tells her, hey, I don't have a lot of money right now. My money is tied up with the government. Doesn't really explain it. And so he's saying, yep, his money is tied up. All these things are going on. So she's like, okay, I'm going to take care of our expenses to go on vacation, to do all these things. And she's in real estate. So she's doing well for herself, totally fine. They get married and he moves to the US. He moves to the US, to Dallas, and moves in with her. Why? Because he doesn't have any money, because allegedly all his money is tied up with the government. Now this is where things start getting rocky. He never has the money. His fake job is just there. And she, turns out, is fronting all the expenses, where they're living, the bills, all these travels that they keep doing. He's not doing anything. He then says, okay, I'm into crypto. He enters into a business, Martin, with their crypto friend, who he actually scammed out of thousands of dollars. Onyeka also put this man on her credit card, and he took out $7,000 advance cash without even letting her know. He asked her parents for money, her mom for money, her dad for money, even her sister for money. And one of the things that really floors me about the family situation, though, is like, did this family just never talk to each other about this? If you're engaged to my daughter or you're married to her and you're asking me for money, I feel like I would bring that up. I just think it's a little weird that no one in the family said anything. Meanwhile, they think that this guy's a prince. Like, come on. I think there were just a lot of red flags that a lot of people just decided not to see. So at this point, she's given him almost $200,000 just of her own money. He doesn't have any money at all. They go to Chase Bank at one point. He says he has money, and turns out there's like 67 cents in there. So that's the story. Eventually, she gets tired of this. She starts doing her research, finally, reaching out to people in Denmark that he knows, sister, ex-girlfriend, whatever. And now she starts seeing, oh, this guy was lying the whole time. I mean, I could have told her that. At this point, they're married. She is trying to get a divorce, eventually gets the divorce. She was deceived by this guy. She was deceived, her family, even her other friends, were deceived by this man who was just making up lies. Moving on to somebody else. Her name is Risa Tisa. Risa Tisa met this guy. She calls him Legion, so I guess we'll just call him that. Risa meets this guy in 2020. So basically, literally around COVID. And basically, all this happens within a year and a half. They met online via Facebook dating. Their first date was at the Cheesecake Factory. On the way there, her tire breaks down and he comes to replace it with a brand new tire, which is nice and great. Essentially, he came to her rescue, and that's really where she became smitten. She held on to this guy. He moved in with her. She said that she didn't have bills that were really high, but that he paid the bills at the beginning at that time. She also admitted that she was desperate and thought that it was finally her turn to be in a loving relationship. So here are some details where this guy was just being sketchy. He would get on the phone with his brother, John. She would say, "Hey, tell him I say hello." And he would reply, "Hey, John, Risa says hello." He'd relay the message, but she'd never actually speak to these people. Turns out him and the brother actually had not even spoken for 5 years since their parents passed away. So that was a huge lie. The next thing, his job. When they first met, he told her that he was a VP at a condiment company. So maybe like a Heinz or one of those ketchup mustard companies. So remember, folks, this is during the start of the pandemic where Risa lived. They were quarantined. So they quarantined together. He told her, "Oh, after this whole thing, I want to buy a house for us." Mind you, at this time, actually, he was a temp. He was a forklift driver, even though he said that he was a VP in corporate. There's nothing wrong with being a temp. The problem here is all of these lies. He would call her after things opened up again and pretend to reprimand people he managed. He would forge emails. He faked it for 15 months. Come to find out, after she kicked him out of her house and realized all this, she realized that every single phone call, the ones to the brother, the ones to the people at work, the ones to the friends, all of it was a lie. He would sit on the phone with no one and pretend to be talking to people. I think that is absolutely psychotic. I'm not a certified healthcare professional, but I've watched enough Criminal Minds to know that that is a crazy thing to do. So back to the house thing. He said he wanted to buy a house with her that was $600,000. So basically, he showed her a fake email from Chase Bank that says that they were approved for $700,000. So $100,000 more than the cost of the house. But then the realtor told her, "Hey, there are no proof of funds here, no proof of anything." So she eventually found out about this, obviously divorced him. And actually, Netflix is partnering with her to make a documentary about it because it's absolutely nuts. Again, in this story, this guy showed her bank statements. He was allegedly on the phone. Like, this guy did a lot more to hide and to actually make things up to her to make it seem like everything was real, and just crazy deception. Again, she married this guy. So it wasn't just some random person. I don't know. To me, swindling definitely comes in many forms. Ultimately, this guy, literally everything he did was a lie. And it sucks for her that she went through this. Y'all, there's this real news story about this woman who faked a pregnancy so that her boyfriend would not break up with her. She faked a whole pregnancy for 9 months, even had a baby shower. That is crazy. So again, anyone can be deceptive in romantic relationships. And it's hard to see some of these red flags. Sometimes, like the Legion guy with Risa Tisa, people will lie. They will show you bank statements that look real, those types of things. And unfortunately, sometimes it's really hard to see through those lies. It's more just eventually when things start not adding up and when you start seeing that things are a little off. For me, I always like to remind myself to trust my gut. I know that sometimes we don't. I certainly don't all the time. But there's not really a moral of the story here. I think it's more just we all just need to keep our eyes out for when things do not add up. Because, I mean, honestly, in these examples, some of these people went on and married these people, combined their lives with these people who deceived them. And I mean, that's not fair to them. that happened to them. And honestly, there's other forms of deception. Sometimes it's little white lies. We've probably all done this before, saying you're on the way when you're not to somewhere. Like I said, people can lie about their height. All those things to me are forms of deception. And I think we all believe it because we want a connection with someone or stability in our lives, especially in terms of romantic ones. We may not want to be single. And ultimately, we want to believe the best in people. I get that. But I think sometimes, eventually, we'll learn. These stories I told, all of these people learned from the deception that happened to them. And all we can hope is that they're able to either recognize those same patterns in the future or just try to do the best that they can. So I have some other stories of deception that women have done, non-romantic deception. So I'm going to give y'all another episode of deception that will be non-romantic. So make sure you keep up with me because that episode will be coming out very soon. And let me know your thoughts on this. If you guys have any stories of deception, leave comments in the episode on Spotify or Apple, or you can actually DM me on Instagram, Lush Life No Labels _pod. Thanks for listening to another episode of Lush Life No Labels. Cheers to your lush life and see you later.